When we are getting down into this position, you would see the professional golfer on average have probably a slightly bowed wrist, if anything, and that club face would tend to be matching the spine angle within reason. So mate, one of the biggest relations that we see in regards to start line direction and curvature would have to be what the wrist angles are doing from, let's say as a checkpoint, we would say at the top of the swing, be it in the backswing or the downswing motion, and then at the moment of impact. And we were just talking before about how if you have what's called a cupped or extended condition of the wrist, where we've got the back of this lead wrist here forming a different angle from the forearm, well, what effect does that have on the face? It opens it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, completely, yeah, exactly. I mean, and that is like where the face points where the ball starts.
Correct.
And that's got, you know, when we can talk about strike, the other big part is direction.
Yeah.
And being able to control that and understand that, it's such a big difference, you know. Yeah. And it's, I think it's a bit of a low-hanging fruit when you're on the golf course to put in a quick fix. Because there's loads of things you work on your golf swing which you have to go and drill. Yeah. And you have to go and work in, and you know, it might be a grip change. Kind of got to go and hit 500 balls, make that feel comfortable. Or I've got this weird start to my downswing. That's another 3,000 golf balls getting that, you know, to get where it should go to. And then you have 2 weeks off, and it will come straight back again. But if you understand what the wrist can do to the club face, that's something you can always do in play. Yeah. You can stand here and hook your first 3 drives. Yeah. And go, right, I can't play like this all day. Yeah. So there's a couple of things you can start to, if you understand what the wrists do, maybe where the knuckles are pointed in the downswing. Yeah. Just help minimise or at least change your ball flight, and it can change straight away, because some of the things we work on, we might not actually see the fruits of that work for quite a while. Correct. And what feels like a massive change doesn't change very much on the camera. Yeah. And then doesn't necessarily change in the first 2 weeks out there. Yeah. But we know that I still want to get rid of that piece of my golf swing. But as soon as you start doing like anything to do with a wrist, it changes. Well, the first thing we'll see is it will change the start line. Yeah. And the ball flight, the height. Yeah. Left and right, and then the other part is the feel. It'll just feel so much different. Yeah, very. And I think if we look at the average amateur golfer, right, and we're going to use the club shaft parallel to the ground position just as a reference here, and if we stop here, if the knuckles are pointing more up towards the sky or the logo of the glove, the direct effect that that's going to have on the club face is it is open, and we would generally see most amateurs here. Right. And then what happens as a result is one of 2 things. If they're a very new golfer, they would just continue to turn and the golf ball would be going a mile right. Or after a bit of play and hand-eye coordination, the compensation is that they're going to begin to catch that club head up as a reaction to the open face, and we start to see an extension and a breaking down of the lead arm. The other one is if it's like this at the top, and you over the top move. Correct. So your brain's working overtime to match up this here to hit a relatively straight shot, okay? Now, when we are getting down into this position, you would see the professional golfer on average have probably a slightly bowed wrist, if anything, and that club face would tend to be matching the spine angle within reason. Yeah. By there, the club head would be slightly inside the hands, and then that would encourage a fairly conducive strike to getting compression. Now, a lot of good shots from there. Exactly. Yeah. And then we would see like the players with the highest amount of ball speed and the most amount of compression tend to have even more of that. Then they would turn more than the average player. They would probably have a more, or require a more passive release through the golf ball, just so they don't hook it around the left ankle, right? Now, if you're going to be in one camp or the other, we'd always say err on the side of having a stronger club face in that position. Agree? Yeah. So let's say you wanted to train someone into that position, and we'll take the player who tends to have the club face open, the knuckles facing up towards the sky. Let's say we want to work on with them of getting into this. Is there a feeling that you use to get players doing that? I mean, I think the low-hanging fruit one is to feel like your wrist is flat at the top of the backswing. That's one. As a nice little guide point. Yeah. That everyone can kind of like, I can look back and see that. Yeah. I can actually see it. So I kind of feel I can see it. What does it look like? Yeah. And then, but more in motion for shots, a bit like you can practice punch shots, is where the knuckles pointed. Like you said, you kind of reference like knuckles to the sky. Okay, so knuckles to the floor. All of a sudden without changing anything else in my body,
Yeah.
my club face has completely changed.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to have to do something completely different to move the club and get the ball to go straight. So knuckles to the ground by the time the shaft level is a really good one. I mean, and then when you look out, there's a checkpoint of, yes, you got knuckles to the floor, and then is the leading edge on my spine angle?
Yeah.
Where I'm tilted forward.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you got a couple of reference points there,
Yeah.
which are quite good to work with, because there's a train of thought to think that if someone flips it,
Yeah.
and they hit left, that can actually come from an open club face.
Yeah,
From
absolutely.
open the way down, knuckles up, open the way down. So I'm going to have to then cross the forearms over maybe. I could do this.
Yeah.
I could do this with my wrist, or cross my forearms over to then be able to square the club face up. So there is something to say that if you flip it, or if you have a fast overtaking rate, to have knuckles down, leading edge on your spine angle, there's now no reason for my forearms to cross over.
Yeah.
It's already square.
Yeah.
So now I can just, as you demonstrated, just like turn, forearms uncrossing, and the club's still square right here.
And then into that position.
And with iron shots, it just comes out like a bullet.
Yeah, and I think this is important to note, is that your body is going to react to two things to strike a golf ball straight. The first, without a doubt, is the club face orientation. If you play any amount of golf, what's going to happen is your body is either going to stall out or release more relative to the club face orientation, firstly, and then secondary would also be the pitch of the shaft.
Yeah.
So for example, if I got a really strong face, but my pitch of the shaft is vertical, my body's going to react like that to try and hit a straight shot. So just using this as a reference, by the time that we kind of get this golf club shaft down into this position here, the club head should be slightly behind the hands and that club face in a strong position. Now, even myself, throughout my whole career, I've had a bit of a cup lead wrist due to my backswing getting a little bit too deep. So when I do this movement just through 25 years of playing, I get myself now into a position where I feel that is still foreign. And that's because I learned and I played golf for so long from this position. So it's one of those things, it's not going to come quickly, right, as such. And this is something that I'm very aware of in my golf swing. And when I'm hitting it way right, which can happen with the driver, one of the thoughts that I do have is that I'm trying to get those knuckles turning down a little bit, and works really well, especially when it just comes to iron shots of just getting that nice amount of compression through the ball.
So I always find that's a nice one to kind of think about, which actually, funny enough, you go like a TrackMan, for instance, or a launch monitor, and you might be like going, okay, the path might be really good, but the face is off. Just have a little play around with what's max knuckles up, what's max knuckles down. Yeah. And then you go, oh, that's what's in the middle. That's the one that fits. Yeah. So actually practicing ends of the spectrum.
Correct.
Can really help. You know, when you practice, we get in an environment like this, and we kind of do.
We react to the previous shot.
And we're just trying to hit a certain shot. Yeah. Actually, like, maybe take 10 balls and be like, right, I'm just actually gonna not worry about hitting the perfect shot, and just see what these different wrist angles do, and you'll hit balls. One will go 30 yards right, one will go 30 yards left, but it's an experiment. But we're all a bit afraid of that. We want to, every ball we want to hit perfect. Yeah. And sometimes the route to get to that perfect is to find out what the end of the spectrums are.
Correct. I would totally agree. And just before shooting these videos, we're having a discussion up there as even as high-level golfers, you can spend all your time grinding out and be here, and the swing looks aesthetically perfect. You're hitting every position, you're nailing every shot on the range, you're chipping it really close. But in the heat of battle out in the jungle on the golf course, the feel that you get here is so different from the actual play feel that's going to shoot a low score. So you've got to do all your process-orientated work here to groove it into your subconscious, and then when you're out there, you play with the target and the outcome more in mind rather than how you're performing the motion. Yeah. But if you are doing that and you're hitting it way right every single time, well then, if your expectations are to, let's say, hit the ball somewhere near the fairway so you're not losing every single ball on that day, well, wrist angles is the perfect way to then make those adjustments.
Exactly. It's a low-hanging fruit, and it's super quick. I mean, I've had it with a player who's been out night before the last round, hooking his drives. Every drive he hits, it's turn over. He's getting more and more agitated every shot. And I'd heard this from another coach. Yeah. Who'd had a similar thing out at tournament, Andy Plummer. Yeah. So then I was there and luckily I'd heard the story because I was with this player and he's hitting his shots. So I'm thinking, I know what he does. That's his pattern. He gets a bit underneath it. Yeah. And we're going. I was thinking, you just need to fix his wrist angles. You just need to get him hitting it straight tomorrow. What can we do now?
Correct.
We haven't got 3 hours.
Yeah.
So we go in there, go right, knuckles to the sky, hands back at address. That's another part.
Yep.
Get forward, that flattens the wrist out. Hands back, so it puts the natural cup in. Yeah.
Yep.
I want you to feel like you hold that the whole time, so then it will feel like knuckles are up. Yeah.
Yeah.
He just goes, whoosh, it's dead straight. I'll do it again, and he's like, boom, right, hands back, foot a bit weird, yeah, hand, grip back.
Yeah.
You know, for a good play, you think, this looks terrible, supposed to have it forward, all this sort of stuff. Whoosh, dead straight. It's like 5 drive, dead straight. So I'm sitting there thinking like, I've made it here. Yeah. I couldn't be a better coach right now. I've gone from hooking it, him dead straight, he's playing 5 rounds tomorrow, and he goes, yeah, but I can't do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you're just there, you're going, okay, hit your hooks tomorrow. The whole time. So it's that part. Some things haven't got to look perfect. Some things haven't got to be your long-term look, goal, and so forth. Some things you've got to get done now, and I feel like that's one of them.
And I would just say that no matter who you are, doesn't matter if you're a beginner golfer, a mid-handicapper, or a professional, human instinct is always to then put rose-tinted glasses on what we've always done out of comfort. And what we'll find with a lot of players is they will get themselves into a position where they go, okay, so let's say in that instance, he was too bowed, right? And he thinks that what you're telling him to do is be like this. Now, in reality, in that 0.25 of a second that he's coming down, if you actually filmed it, because all that happens so quickly and it's such an embedded sensation, he is probably honestly going from here to there.
Yeah.
And the main reason being is because the ball flight, right, in that instance, it's not lying to him, right?
Yeah.
Striking reasonably in the center of the club face.
Yeah.
And he's just going from snipe hooks to hitting it reasonably straight.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty and challenge of golf, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Right. Awesome.
That's right,
Cheers.